Hi friends, Ashley Leppert here, author of The Hurricane Within, Volume 1 and 2. Take a moment and head on over to genevalentino.com and subscribe so you can get all the latest podcasts from GrassRoots TruthCast. See you later, friends.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Well, hello and welcome back to Common Sense. I'm Wendy Bell. You know, that deadly hit happened 3 months ago this week. A lethal kinetic strike on reported narco-terrorists ferrying drugs across the Caribbean Sea to America. Their boat was obliterated, but 2 men survived the blast. And according to the Washington Post, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth gave the order, "Kill them all," at which point a Joint Special Operations commander followed the secretary's orders. SEAL Team 6 finished the job, blowing the surviving drug runners out of the water. Sounds like a war crime, says Hakeem Jeffries. "You can't just do that sort of thing," cried Senator Chris Van Hollen. And Senator Dick Blumenthal went so far as to suggest that Hegseth should resign or at least step away from his duties while the whole story is investigated. Oh, Dick. Why investigate when you can ask the secretary yourself, right? Which a reporter did this week at a presidential cabinet meeting. Here you go.
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters.
Wow, didn't go well for the Washington Post, right? Whose fake news that Pete Hegseth said, "Kill them all." Even got called out by the Gray Lady. Ouch. Let's bring back our panel. Gene Valentino hosts the GrassRoots TruthCast podcast. Wendy Patrick hosts Today with Dr. Wendy on KCBQ Radio, The Answer. I just slurred through that. KCBQ. And Ike Wingate hosts the Ike Wingate Show podcast. He's also a contributor here on Newsmax. Great to have you guys back. All right. So let's start with Wendy, you, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. You heard what he said. "I did not order the strike on the 2 survivors, but I do support the admiral who did." Since when has the U.S. military been criticized for finishing the job?
Yeah, you know, he really put his journalistic skills to use in responding to that. And he's been doing that lately. He's had to do that because you need good reporting to get to the bottom of this. And some of his detractors on the left, they don't like Pete Hegseth. They're not losing sleep over the fact that we're bombing drug boats to prevent lethal doses of narcotics from coming onto the United States soil and killing thousands and thousands of people. They don't like Pete. They don't like that he's Secretary of War. They didn't vote for him. They didn't vote to confirm him. And now here through the fog of war, we're second guessing what he could or couldn't see when he basically supported, we can call it finishing the job, we can call it anything you like, but this is not something that would have been objected to, no doubt, if the circumstances were different and the tables were turned, because we're preventing something from coming onto our land that is going to destroy countless lives. Everybody's in favor of that safety.
Right on. And Gene, you know, listen to what the Washington Post reported. It's crazy that now even the New York Times is debunking. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave a spoken directive, according to 2 people with direct knowledge of the operation. The order was to kill everybody one of them said. So, Gene, you've got anonymous sources, you have hearsay, you have rumor. Those are facts to the Washington Post. Allegations of war crimes are beyond serious. They can be morale breaking for the military. Like, is that the point, Gene?
Look, Wendy, Barack Obama killed hundreds of innocent civilians in drone attacks. Not a word from the libs or any of these other issues of war crimes for them. Where was Blumenthal then when that was going on? Senator Cotton saw the private videos and said a second, third, and fourth assault would have been justified. It was within their legal purview. And here's Pete Hegseth and the president having to defend himself for these vexatious, salacious counterattacks, again, to steer your attention away from their own wrongdoing. These very legislators need to get back to work and get some laws in place, like a constitutional amendment to balance the budget they've been screwing around with. Not to mention 6 other things.
I want to use that vexatious. Ike, you're going to have to drop that in your answer to this next question. Have the fake news headlines and the purported noise that Hegseth has faced for blowing up narco-terrorists and dropping them to the ocean's floor, like, have they stuck the landing here? Have the stories gotten enough people to think maybe what the Secretary of War is doing is wrong? Because CNN's data guy dipped his toes in the water to find out. Watch this.
Pete Hegseth, I said at the beginning of this, has been generating so much interest, far more interest than the normal defense secretary. I was just interested in the polls that were asking the popularity rating of recent defense secretaries. There have been at least 10 in terms of Pete Hegseth. There were 0 for Lloyd Austin. Esper had 0. Mad Dog Jim Mattis had only 2. This is extremely unusual for a defense secretary to be generating this much interest, especially when we're not at a time of war.
You know, Ike, isn't that aren't they polling to see if their fake news narratives are working?
That's exactly what they're doing. They're testing the waters, if you will, to see is the ruse working. Every veteran I have had a conversation with loves Pete Hegseth emphatically. And to Gene's special word there, it's vexatious. I can't even say it. Not smart enough. That the Democrats are trying to tell us these are fishing boats. I mean, Democrats, remember, can't even identify a woman.
So stupid.
They told us Biden was mentally competent. And you look at the boat and there's multiple outboard speed motors on it and barrels full of material that came from a drug manufacturing area. And so for some reason, Democrats want to defend drug dealers, but I think if Democrats were being consistent, they would be arguing that these drugs are harming fish or something like that. At least it would be on brand when they blow up a boat and there's a shark running around with a bag full of cocaine in his mouth. At least it would be believable.
I agree. Wendy, I'm going to give you my last 20 seconds. Things are totally crazy. Yes or no?
Yes. Wait a minute. I have 19 more seconds left. Let me just say vexatious litigants is what we normally talk about. But what we're talking about here in the blowing up the drug boats is very, very different. And I do agree that have to have some other reason that they disapprove of it. Nobody disapproves of it. You want to disapprove of Pete Hegseth? That's different.
100%, and that is very well said. I'm telling you, she's a lot nicer than I am. Guys, thank you for being here.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.